So that spooky time of year is drawing ever closer. And so I thought what better way to get into the spirit of things than to do a countdown of my top 5 Pokemon Creepypastas. A Pokemon Creepypasta is pretty much just a creepy Pokemon story. But are they actually true? Maybe. Anyway, these are going to be the top 5 Pokemon Creepypastas that creeped me out the most. You may call me a wimp for some of my picks, but it's my list, so I can be scared by whatever I want to be scared by. My list will probably be a little unbalanced too, because obviously I haven't seen every creepypasta. So anyway, grab your nearest fire-type Pokemon, because we're going to be telling some spooky campfire stories! Number 5. Pokemon Lost Silver. Pokemon Lost Silver is arguably one of the most well-known Pokemon creepypastas. I'll try not to give out too many spoilers, but the story goes as so. You're playing as Gold and you're trying to navigate the Sprout Tower. As you do, things get progressively worse. There are unknown constantly showing up in your party showing creepy messages, and as you progress, your trainer sprite gradually becomes no more. Literally, he loses body parts as you go through the tower. In my opinion, one of the creepiest things about this game is the choice of music. They use the unknown sounds that you hear on the radio in the ruins of Alph. At the time, you may not have thought much of the little beeps in this tune, but when put into context in a situation like this, it's freaking creepy. Just listen to it! If you want to know more about the whole story, then I am planning to do a playthrough of the game sometime next week, so I guess you can look out for it. Number 4. Lavender Town Syndrome. We all know the story, you listen to the Lavender Town theme and you die in real life. Wait, what? Well, apparently the version of the song in the original Japanese Red and Green was different from the Red and Blue that we know, in the sense that the music was altered a little during the localization. The original theme supposedly contained extremely high frequencies that could only be picked up by the ears of small children. And in turn this apparently caused headaches and in severe cases, suicidal thoughts and actions. At the time that I heard this, it creeped me out a lot. The thought of a video game actually being able to cause your death in real life does seem very unsettling. Though it can be successful. Now that I'm a little bit older, I've realised that this story is likely a load of rubbish. If this were true, then there would have been a massive outcry at the time. If something as small as Jinx's skin colour controversy can have such a lasting impact on the Pokemon community, then I dread to think of what something like this would do. I'm not actually going to play the tune, because there are probably kids watching this that were just like me all that time ago. I don't want to scare people too much. If you want to listen to it though, it's really not that hard to find a video here on YouTube that plays the song. Number 3. Strangled Read. The story goes as so. A guy finds an old Pokemon Red cartridge in a trash bin. The sticker is torn right across the Charizard's neck. Foreshadowing! And what do you know, the game's name is Pokemon Strangled Read version. Well, dingus, it's a hacked game. The player checks the game to find that he is playing as a trainer named Steven, who already owns a Charmander named Mickey. He has a brother named Mike who seems to represent the rival character. The game takes place a year before Red's Pokemon journey begins, as stated by his mother. The game seems interesting and plays out almost exactly the same as the original Red and Blue. Steven refuses to go inside the Pokemon Tower, but hey, it's a creepypasta in Lavender Town, what do you expect? As in Red and Blue, you defeat the rival character and become champion. But it doesn't end here. The game picks up after you've become a champion, with your brother Mike asking if you can trade over your precious Mickey who's become a Charizard at this point in order to complete his Pokedex. When suddenly, snap! Foreshadowing! The player reboots the game only to find Steven in the Pokemon Tower mourning Mickey. The game plays during this dreary fashion with NPCs telling Steven that they're sorry for his loss. When in a bizarre turn of events, Steven seeks the help of Missing No in order to bring his beloved Mickey back. He successfully does this, and let's just say that the result was less than happy. Steven's trainer sprite gradually changes to something quite disturbing. Steven returns to Pallet Town and looms over his sleeping brother's bed. And then he strangles him. Ugh. This creepypasta isn't one of the scariest, but it's definitely one of my favorites. The player actually develops a connection with the protagonist and then is forced to watch as these horrible things unfold. Somehow I don't find things that are labeled as ROM hacks instead of actual truth to be as scary, but this creepypasta actually does implement a somewhat original story, with the exception of the Lavender Town and Missing No references, and so has gained a spot on this list. Number 2. Buried Alive. You may call me a wimp for this, but this one creeped me out so much when I first read about it. Hey, 13-year-old me was a real dingus, what can I say? Apparently, the original boss of the Pokemon Tower was this thing called Buried Alive instead of Marowak's ghost. Upon reaching the top of the Pokemon Tower, you interact with a tombstone and are greeted with this response. "You're here. I'm trapped. And I'm lonely. So very lonely. Won't you join me?" A battle with what appears to be a decaying corpse emerging from the ground initiates. If that sprite isn't enough to put you off, then I don't know what is. Buried Alive has a team of 2 white hands, which appear to simply be decaying white hands, a Gengar and a Muk. His team is completely overpowered for that stage in the game, and so you lose. After which Buried Alive states, "Finally, fresh meat." And then you are met with this game over screen showing Buried Alive dragging the player into the ground. Apparently, the cartridge then downloads this to the Game Boy's small internal memory, overwriting the current title screen data. So every time the player would turn on the Game Boy, regardless of whether or not they were playing Pokemon, they would be greeted by this image. What a load of rubbish. Yeah, I'll admit that at the time this really creeped me out. More than Lost Silver and Strangled Read, because the creepypasta was actually trying to say that this was something that was intended to be implemented into the original game. I was a 13-year-old dingus that pretty much believed everything I read on the internet, but I'd like to think that something like this wouldn't fool me again. And number 1 is Hypnos Lullaby. This is by far my favorite Pokemon creepypasta. Possibly because it's the most realistic, as it expands on something that is actually stated in-game. Take a look at Hypnos' Pokedex entry from Fire Red. It carries a pendulum-like device. There was once an incident where it took away a child it hypnotized. Oh. Let's also take into consideration the fact that in these games, you rescue a girl named Lostel from Berry Forest where she is being scared by a Hypno. Oh, sweet dingus. This has definitely given Hypno a bad reputation. There isn't even one particular form of media that I can say is the creepiest for representing this form of Hypno, because there are several. I'd say that there are 2 that are creepier than the rest though. The first is the song. Again, I'm not going to play it, but I'll provide a link in the description to it. It's horribly creepy and the lyrics are extremely sad, and worst of all, it has the Lavender Town theme as the background music. The second is the game. This is actually an oddity in itself because the majority of creepypasta ROM hacks that I see are either 1st or 2nd gen, and this is a ROM hack of Fire Red and Leaf Green. Back in December, I actually ran through this game with what was the first Let's Play style video on my channel. And dingus, it's nasty. The game goes as so. You find yourself on 3 Island. Everyone around you speaks of how dangerous Berry Forest is, and how you should never go alone. So what do? Go to Berry Forest, of course! We find a level 100 Hypno, and seeing as we only have a Vulpix or a Marill at level 5, it's safe to assume that we aren't going to beat this thing. You black out and find yourself in Hypno's cave, with countless other victims who appear to be hypnotized. The rest of the game plays through with the protagonist trying to navigate through Hypno's cave, and eventually a nightmare created by Hypno. There are various horrifying activities for you to do as well, like killing children, running away from Hypno, discovering dead bodies. But long story short, there is no escape. This is my favorite Pokemon creepypasta because it was actually taken from something that was already in the game and made even creepier while still being original. While Lavender Town does make an appearance in the game, it isn't exactly shoved in your face like in the majority of Pokemon creepypastas. The game and the song are both horribly creepy in their own way, and that's why this Pokemon creepypasta is my favorite of them all. Well, that was my top 5 Pokemon creepypastas. Hopefully this video didn't freak you out too much. Thanks for watching, and I hope you all have an amazing Halloween. Bye!